Have you ever seen a map that could rewrite history? Get ready, because what I'm about to show you might just do that. In 1929, a German theologian was working in the Topkapi Palace Library in Istanbul when he stumbled upon a fragment of a map drawn on gazelle skin. This wasn't just any old map. It was dated to the year 1513 and signed by an Ottoman admiral and cartographer named Piri Reis. Now, Piri Reis himself noted that he compiled this map from about 20 other source maps, some dating back to the time of Alexander the Great and even earlier. The map is incredibly detailed for its time, showing parts of Europe, North Africa, the coast of Brazil, and various Atlantic islands with surprising accuracy. But that's not the part that sends a shiver down your spine. The truly mind-boggling feature is what lies at the very bottom, a landmass that looks eerily like the coastline of Antarctica. Here's where it gets really strange. Let's pull up a modern map of Antarctica. For most of our history, all we've ever seen is a massive continent buried under miles of solid ice. We didn't even officially discover Antarctica until the first confirmed sighting in 1820, almost 300 years after Piri Reis drew his map. So, first question, how did he know it was there? But hold on, the mystery deepens. Let's look closer at the landmass on the Piri Reis map. It doesn't show the continent as we know it today, covered in its immense ice sheet. Instead, it seems to depict the actual coastline of the continent itself, the land underneath the ice. To verify this, in 1949, a joint British-Swedish reconnaissance expedition used seismic echo soundings to map the subglacial topography of Queen Maud Land in Antarctica. When they compared their findings to the Piri Reis map, the results were astonishing. The coastlines matched with incredible precision. This raises a cascade of baffling questions. For the Piri Reis map to show an ice-free Antarctica, his source maps must have been drawn at a time when the continent wasn't covered in ice. According to mainstream geology, the Antarctic ice sheet began forming millions of years ago, and the last time Queen Maud Land was completely ice-free was at least 6,000 years ago, and some scientists would even push that date back much, much further. So, let this sink in. This map from 1513 shows Antarctica, a continent we didn't discover for another 3 centuries. And it doesn't just show Antarctica, it shows its true landmass, free of the ice that has covered it for thousands of years. How is this possible? Could there have been an advanced, seafaring civilization in the ancient past with the technology to accurately map the entire globe? A civilization that existed long before the recognized cradles of civilization in Mesopotamia or Egypt. A civilization that explored the world from the tropics to the poles and whose knowledge was passed down through fragments of maps, eventually finding their way into the hands of Piri Reis. This isn't just a quirky historical artifact. It's a piece of evidence that challenges the very timeline of human history we've been taught. It suggests that our story might be far older, far more complex, and far more mysterious than we ever imagined. The map seems to be telling us that someone, thousands of years ago, had a complete picture of our planet. Who were they? What happened to them? And what other knowledge have we lost to time? The existence of the Piri Reis map was so perplexing that it even caught the attention of Professor Charles Hapgood from Keene State College. He and his students dedicated years to studying this and other ancient maps. Hapgood proposed a radical theory known as Earth crust displacement. He theorized that the Earth's entire outer crust could sometimes shift in one piece, moving large landmasses into different climatic zones. Could a sudden shift like this explain how Antarctica moved to the South Pole and froze over relatively quickly? While the theory is controversial among geologists, it was an attempt to explain the seemingly impossible data presented on the map. Albert Einstein himself was intrigued by Hapgood's ideas. In the foreword to Hapgood's 1953 book, Einstein wrote that the theory electrifies the imagination and that Hapgood evidence is a very important and should be given serious attention. When the greatest scientific mind of the 20th century tells you to pay attention, you pay attention. Skeptics, of course, have other explanations. Some argue that the landmass isn't Antarctica at all, but a distorted representation of the South American coastline, bent eastward to fit on the parchment. They point to inaccuracies in other parts of the map to suggest that Piri Reis was simply guessing or piecing together flawed mariners' tales. Others suggest the resemblance to the subglacial coastline is pure coincidence, a case of pareidolia, where we see patterns in random data. But is it just a coincidence? The correlation between the map and the seismic data is too strong for many to dismiss. Piri Reis himself wrote that some of his source maps came from infidel sources from the West, hinting at a pre-Columbian knowledge of the Americas. If they knew about the Americas, could they have known about the land further south? Let's consider the technology required. To map a continent's coastline with this degree of accuracy, especially a subglacial one, requires advanced knowledge of cartography, navigation, and possibly even aerial surveying. You need to know longitude, a problem that wasn't officially solved until the 18th century with the invention of the marine chronometer. Yet the Piri Reis map appears to use a sophisticated grid system with a center point near modern-day Cairo, suggesting a command of spherical trigonometry far beyond the known capabilities of 16th century or even ancient cartographers. This isn't an isolated case either. Other maps, like the Orontius Phineas map of 1531, also depict Antarctica, showing rivers and coastlines where there is now only ice. The Mercator map of 1569 includes similar features. Were all these master cartographers just copying the same ancient, misunderstood source? The implications are staggering. We are taught that human civilization began around 6,000 years ago. But if a map exists that accurately portrays a 6,000-year-old ice-free Antarctica, then the mapmakers must have existed before that. This pushes back the dawn of civilization, suggesting a lost chapter of our history, a highly advanced global civilization that vanished, leaving behind only whispers and clues, like this incredible map. What could have wiped out such a civilization so completely that almost all memory of it was lost? A cataclysmic flood, a pole shift, a cosmic impact. The myths and legends of ancient cultures worldwide speak of a great flood and a golden age when gods walked among men. Were these myths actual memories of a forgotten epoch? The Piri Reis map is more than just a piece of cartography. It's a key. It's a key that could unlock a completely different understanding of our past. It forces us to ask, what else don't we know? It's a powerful reminder that history is not a closed book. It's an ongoing investigation, and sometimes a single piece of evidence can force us to question everything we thought was true. This isn't about conspiracy theories, it's about critical thinking and daring to ask, what if? The map exists. The match to the subglacial coastline is there. The discovery of Antarctica came 300 years later. These are the facts. The explanation is what's up for debate. Does the conventional explanation of coincidence and distortion satisfy you, or does your gut tell you there's something more to this story? The Piri Reis map stands as a silent testament, challenging the foundations of our accepted history. It whispers of a time before the ice, of forgotten explorers, and a world that was mapped long before we thought possible. It's a puzzle handed down to us from the dawn of civilization, and it's asking us to question everything. Thanks so much for joining me on this deep dive into one of history's greatest enigmas. If you found this fascinating, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more journeys into the unexplained. Let me know your theories about the Piri Reis map in the comments below. See you next time.